What if the tragedy at the Lairs homestead wasn't a coincidence, but part of a secret plan? What if the most iconic twist in Star Wars history, Vader's confession, was never meant to be true? Today, we open the Temple archives and uncover 5 of the biggest fan theories ever written, where they came from, what evidence fueled them, and how they ultimately held up. Stay until the very end, because the final theory reveals something that most die-hard fans rarely talk about. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. What is one Star Wars theory you used to believe before canon proved otherwise? Drop it in the comments. Among all the fan theories involving Obi-Wan Kenobi, few hit the emotional core of his character like this one. The belief that Obi-Wan helped the Empire track the droids to the Jawas, knowing the trail would end at the Lairs homestead. That through a contact in Mos Eisley, or a subtle whisper through the Force, he quietly ensured that Luke Skywalker's attachments would be severed in a single devastating moment. The theory grew from a simple observation. The Empire finds the Jawas incredibly fast. Almost too fast. And when Luke turns back toward the homestead, Obi-Wan's face carries an expression fans have debated for decades. Sorrow, yes, but also resignation. Some believed this wasn't shock, it was recognition. Recognition that this moment, however tragic, was a necessary fracture to propel Luke toward his destiny. After all, the Jedi Order had always warned against attachment, and they had paid dearly for ignoring that warning with Anakin. But does this theory hold up? The moment you shift from symbolism to literal intent, the theory collapses. The Empire did not find the Jawas through a whisper from Kenobi. They did what the Empire always does. They investigated the escape pod, traced its path across the desert, and followed the droid's tracks to the trading caravan. There is no missing step, no covert message, no hidden communication channel. Obi-Wan's actions during this period are quiet and cautious. He has evaded Imperial detection for almost 2 decades. Nothing in canon portrays him as someone willing to gamble with innocent lives, especially not the lives of people he personally knew. What truly killed Owen and Beru was the Empire's relentless efficiency, not Kenobi's intervention. Now, from one Skywalker-related death to another. The moment Rise of Skywalker premiered, the fandom exploded with one of the most persistent theories of the modern era. If Ben Solo truly died on Exegol, where was his Force ghost on Tatooine? Luke appears, Leia appears, the twins united at last, but Ben, the last living Skywalker by blood, is absent, and fans noticed immediately. The theory grew from that silence. If he didn't appear as a ghost, then perhaps he didn't cross into the cosmic force at all. Perhaps he shifted his consciousness elsewhere. Perhaps he was pulled through the world between worlds. Perhaps his sacrifice didn't extinguish him, but transformed him. And in a saga where characters survive being cut in half, resurrect themselves through the Force, and literally manipulate time, the theory seemed almost reasonable. Its most compelling route comes from the nature of Force ghosts themselves. Every Jedi who manifests after death undergoes specific training. Qui-Gon discovers the technique but never finishes it. Yoda teaches the final steps to Obi-Wan. Anakin receives the knowledge through divine exception. We assume that Ben learns the same way. Another detail kept the speculation alive. Ben's body fades into the Force. Not every Jedi death includes this. It is reserved for those who pass peacefully, spiritually aligned. It mirrors Vader's final moment, and for many fans that parallel suggests something unfinished. Yet, as compelling as the emotions were, the story itself points in a clearer direction. Everything about Ben's final scene is written as a conclusion. His arc, from lost child to redeemed heir, meets the same quiet finality as Anakin's. The visual language mirrors Return of the Jedi intentionally. His absence is not a hint of hidden survival, it is a reminder that the Force does not operate like a switch. His sacrifice is complete, and the Skywalker saga ends with the two figures who guided Rey, the masters who shaped her destiny, standing beside her. Ben's story concludes with redemption, not continuation. If the fandom could question the final fate of Ben Solo, what other long-standing Star Wars truths were once doubted by fans? Long before the prequels, before comics, there was this theory. In 1980, audiences believed Darth Vader was lying when he revealed the truth, or what seemed like the truth, to Luke Skywalker. Today, this sounds impossible. No, I Am Your Father is the most iconic plot twist in movie history. But at the time, fans didn't buy it. Many outright rejected it. And it wasn't because they didn't understand it. It was because the claim felt too absurd to be real. Think of how audiences saw Vader before The Empire Strikes Back. He wasn't a tragic figure. He wasn't a fallen Jedi. He wasn't a man with a haunted past. He was simply the embodiment of evil, a mechanical monster, a remorseless executioner. So naturally, fans adopted a belief that fit what they knew. Vader was manipulating Luke, hoping to corrupt him the way he'd once manipulated Anakin Skywalker himself. Whoever that had been, since no one knew at the time. Even George Lucas leaned into the ambiguity. Early interviews danced around the question. Promotional material kept the mystery alive. Novelizations played with wording. Kenner toy lines didn't spoil anything. For many children of the 80s, the twist didn't land until Return of the Jedi confirmed it outright. That uncertainty fueled fan theory culture long before the internet existed, and the more they debated, the more the mystery grew. Why would Obi-Wan hide the truth? Why was the family connection never hinted at earlier? Why was there such a dramatic change in tone? Looking back now, the theory's longevity becomes more understandable. In the absence of additional canon, fans were left only with clues. Obi-Wan's hesitation, Yoda's silence, Vader's cryptic words, and without narrative context, those clues formed a picture of deliberate deception. What shattered the theory wasn't logic, but clarity. Return of the Jedi made the truth undeniable, not only through Vader's actions, but through the emotional weight of Luke confronting the man behind the mask. Canon later expanded this story through books, comics, Clone Wars episodes, and the prequel trilogy, weaving a narrative where the fatherly connection was essential to the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. What fascinates historians of Star Wars lore is that this theory wasn't born out of contradiction, but out of narrative discomfort. Sometimes the truth of a story is so shocking that the audience rejects it outright, creating theories that help them process it. In the end, the theory serves as a snapshot of fandom at a moment of pure uncertainty, a moment when one line of dialogue reshaped the entire saga. And that raises the next question. If Vader's lie was never a lie, what about the other lie we've debated for decades? Obi-Wan's, "I don't recall ever owning a droid." Few lines in A New Hope have generated as much speculation as this casual dismissal from Obi-Wan. Fans seized on this line because at face value, It sounds deceptive. Obi-Wan fought beside R2-D2 during the Clone Wars. He relied on R2 in life or death missions. He knew the droid's voice, personality and capabilities. And if that weren't enough, Obi-Wan makes a comment later that suggests a deeper familiarity, stating that R2 should be able to interface with an entire Imperial network. That is not something anyone would assume about a random astromech, unless, of course, he wasn't random to you. So why hide it? This question led to one of the most widely discussed theories of the early 2000s, the belief that Obi-Wan intentionally concealed his history with R2-D2 to protect Luke from the truth. Not because Luke wasn't ready, but because the past was too painful to revisit. From the Jedi Temple's fall to the betrayal of Anakin Skywalker, R2-D2 wasn't just a droid, he was a living reminder of everything Kenobi had lost. The Jedi, the clones he once trusted, and ultimately Anakin himself. Obi-Wan wasn't denying knowing R2, he was refusing to reopen the wounds tied to him. But emotional reading isn't the only lens here. There's the literal interpretation. Obi-Wan never owned R2-D2. The droid belonged to Queen Amidala, later to Anakin, and eventually served Bail Organa and Leia. Obi-Wan never possessed him as property, and a Jedi would rarely refer to a droid that way anyway. Even deeper still, some fans interpret his behaviour as adherence to the Jedi Code. Obi-Wan's focus was on Luke's future, not his own past. Revealing everything at once would have overwhelmed the boy and placed their mission at risk. So was Obi-Wan lying? Not exactly, but he was guiding Luke with half-truths meant to prepare, not deceive. And perhaps the greatest irony is that R2-D2 himself likely understood everything. The droid carried decades of history within his memory, yet rarely, if ever, revealed it. By the time The Last Jedi released, the connection between Rey and Kylo Ren, the Force dyad, had become one of the trilogy's central mysteries. Fans dissected every glance, every hesitation, every echo of their voices across the galaxy. But long before Snoke claimed responsibility for bridging their minds, another theory, one with surprisingly elegant explanation. The bond didn't begin with Snoke. It began in the interrogation chamber. When Kylo Ren attempts to probe Rey's mind, something unexpected happens. She doesn't retreat. She pushes back. She sees into him as deeply as he sees into her. A moment unprecedented in Star Wars. It was a collision of wills, but also a collision of raw power. Fans argued that this moment created a resonance, a spark where two extremely powerful individuals connected in the Force without guidance or intention. The dyad wasn't a ritual, nor a spell, nor a manipulation. It was instinct. And once that connection formed, Snoke may have recognised it and exploited it, but he did not create it. He only magnified what was already there. This theory flourished because it aligned with the mythology of Star Wars. The Force seeks balance. Light meets dark, two halves of a whole. An echo carried through space the moment their minds collided. And the more fans revisited the interrogation scene, the more they found subtle clues. Rey doesn't just resist Kylo, she mirrors him. He reveals her hidden strength through the process. She taps into something within him. It is, in many ways, the birth of their story. Canon later reframes the dyad as an ancient mythical rarity, something that cannot be taught, only manifested. In that respect, the interrogation theory doesn't contradict canon, it complements it. The bond had to start somewhere, and the chamber remains the earliest moment where the spark feels tangible. Sometimes the Force doesn't wait for permission, sometimes it acts on its own. If you are enjoying these videos, consider becoming a channel member and let's uncover the galaxy's greatest secrets together. Thanks for watching.